Stangibelisco here to define the term ampere hours as it relates to battery capacity, that is, the amount of electricity or juice that a battery has in it. I don't say energy because energy is expressed in watt hours. Then you wonder, why do they specify the capacity of a battery in ampere hours and not in watt hours? For example, you get an automotive battery, brand new automotive battery like I just did. Prepare for one of the winters here in the black holes. 12 volts, nominally actually 12.6 volts when there's no load and it's not being charged by anything like the alternator. But any voltage, you can do this for any battery at any voltage. Ampere hours. Well, it's really pretty simple. As you use a battery, you draw more current and then less and more and less and more and less. And it goes on for quite some time in most cases. Eventually, though, the current reaches a point where you can't get any more juice out of the battery. You've run out of juice. You've used a certain number of amperes every instant of time for a certain length of time. And let's suppose we express that current in amperes and we express that time in hours. Uppercase A, abbreviation for amps, lowercase h, abbreviation for hours, so ampere hours are abbreviated as you might define it. Well, not small a there, large A. Get your brain screwed in, buddy, meaning me. Ampere hours, or sometimes you just hear or see the term like that. The battery capacity in ampere hours is the area under this curve. Now you may have a curve that has a lot of short current spikes in it, like this, with long intervals of maybe non-use. Or you may use the battery continuously and eventually it'll just discharge like that. But when you talk about a certain battery's capacity in ampere hours, say 60 ampere hours, then what you're saying is that no matter what sort of curve you have here within reason, the area under this curve is always going to be 60 square units, as it were, 60 ampere hours. So that's how battery capacity is expressed. Now, if you have a 6-volt battery, obviously, you're going to have a different amount of energy storable in that battery than you would do if you have a 12-volt battery with the same number of ampere hours. With an automotive battery, nominally 12.6 volts, as I said earlier, that is 6 2.1 volt lead-acid cells in series. That's a typical automotive battery, and 60 is a typical ampere hour figure. The number of watt hours you can get by simply multiplying the number of ampere hours, 60, by the battery voltage, in this case 12.6, 756 watt hours. Well, you might also call that 0.756 kilowatt hours. But if the battery were only 6 volts and you had 756 watt hours, then you'd actually have double the ampere hour capacity. Let's just say for 6.3 volts. 120 ampere hours. But 120 ampere hours for a 6-volt battery is the same amount of energy as 60 ampere hours for a 12-volt battery. Remember, power in watts equals voltage in volts times current in amps. So if you want to express watt hours, then you have to multiply ampere hours by the battery voltage. And you have, well, that's not exactly the case. What I should say rather is that ampere hours is just another way of measure, watt hours is just another way of stating volt ampere hours. EIH. Eh? I. So you get a little more of that now. It's a way of expressing the amount of juice in a battery, and if you multiply by the voltage, you can actually get the energy storage capacity in watts. Stan Gibilisco, signing off from the black holes where sleepiness prevails under 2.5 feet of snow. Until next time, so long.